Hi guys, how you doing? Hope you all are doing well. This is going to be a trade breakdown video of a trade that I took last week on Wednesday that I ended up closing on Friday once we hit TP. And yeah, I'm just going to be breaking down the trade, why I entered, how I entered, and why I placed my stop loss and my take profit. All right, boom. So this is the current state. And if you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen that on the 28th May, we had a successful sell on gold. This is how the setup looked like. We had an indication to the downside right here, where the market created a low, it created a high, ended up breaking structure to the downside and created a lower low, which this is considered our indication right here. If you're new here or if you know me, you know that I trade ICC, which is indication, correction, and continuation. So we had an indication to the downside. The market ended up correcting, but this was our previous valid lower high. So as long as the market did not break above this point, we would have been considering sells, right? So it did everything it wanted to do, and then when it got back to this point, it rejected because this is a strong level of sellers. As you can see, we had selling pressure from here all the way to down here, which then ended up breaking structure. So when the market got back to this point, it ended up meeting the same level of sellers and they ended up pushing price to the downside. So anything under this black line was going to sell from here all the way to here, and this was my target. So when price got back below this black line, I entered sells and took it all the way to down here. That was 28th May, which all this movement ended up creating what we are currently looking at. Price ended up selling off, creating a new lower low. It's a lower low because it's lower than the previous low, right? Which then also ended up breaking structure to the downside and also giving us a new indication. So this is how my trade setup for last week looked like. I also post all these trade setups on Instagram. I post the before and the after. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram. We had a new indication to the downside right here. We have a low, we have a high, have a lower low, equal high, ended up breaking structure, giving us a new indication to the downside. This is our indication to the downside, telling us that if price comes back under this black line, it has potential of selling from here all the way to here. Once it got to this point, it met a strong level of buyers, which then they ended up pushing price to the upside, right? It ended up buying aggressively, but I want you to remember what I told you guys. As long as price has not broken above this level, right? So let me mark that out for you guys. As long as the price had not broken above this level, there was no reason for us to consider buys. Price would have only been bullish if it broke above this level. And as you can see, once it met the level of buyers, they ended up pushing it up aggressively, but it came to this point and it still failed to break above. And as you can see, it rejected and then the sellers ended up pushing it down. So this trade from last week was a bit chaotic. The price was not really moving. There was a lot of rejections. But one thing that gave me confidence to hold this trade, because I entered this trade around Wednesday, one thing that gave me confirmation to stay in this sell position and hold this trade all the way to Friday was the fact that when price came to this level, it got rejected. So we have our lower high. We have an equal high here, which then ended up getting rejected to the downside. And then when price came back to this level, it got rejected again. So when the buyers pushed it from here all the way to here, and then it ended up rejecting, it came down here and it created a higher low, right? Buyers tried to push it back up, but failed. Ended up creating a lower high. That was confirmation number one for me to enter sells. When price came back below this black line, this is where I took my entry. Price ended up giving me a bit of profit, but then ended up creating another lower low right here. But I was confident in this trade because price got rejected up here. And then when it came back down, it ended up creating a lower high. And then when it came back down, it ended up breaking structure right here and creating a lower low. So let's say we ignore everything that happened over here. We can literally go off this zone alone. We had our low right here, right? And we had our high right here. Price ended up giving us another indication to the downside. This was an indication to the downside because it broke structure. This was our low. This was our high. Ended up breaking structure to the downside, giving us an indication, came back up. As long as it didn't break this previous low, there was no reason for us to be considering buys. Came back up, created another lower high. So that was two consistent lower highs. And then when price ended up coming back below this level, I added one more position. It then ended up selling off heavy. This was my TP level. And when price crossed this level, that was TP hit. My trades were closed and I was done for the week. So this is how my trade setup looked like. This was my entry. And at first, my stop loss was here and my target was here. When the market ended up creating another lower high, I moved my stop loss from here and I put it right here. And I ended up adding another position once it came back below this black line. And as you can see, this is how my trade setup looked like on my MT5. It's the same exact thing that I have on my trading view. And I share all these screenshots on Instagram, the before and the after. So follow me on Instagram. So that's it. I know this was a quick video, but this was highly requested on Instagram, and I wanted to give you guys a breakdown of that trade. And yeah, thanks for watching. If you like this video, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.